looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
We need more dogs. Perfect timing. Welcome back, folks, to the latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Quentin Crisco. I'm joined by my co-host, Jayton May, who fell ill this week, and his voice is very limited today. So I'm going to be taking most of the heavy lifting on the talking today, and Jay's going to sit there and do a great AJ Hawk impression, I think. What do you say, Jay?
Yeah, I just need to get my cigar out so I can just smoke my cigar and listen.
Absolutely. All right, so on the season, NFL, Jay is down 6.9 units. Most of that is honestly a three unit play that went wrong on him, though. Because if not for that, you'd be sitting pretty good, actually. Or you'd be getting close to that break-even point. It's been a rough season, folks. Like, just a bizarre NFL season. I pulled some numbers on this because I was curious. 3.5-point favorites or more this year have covered 52% of the time. Over the last 5 years, they covered 47% of the time. So, like, historically, the dog is the play when you have a big spread like that. And this year, it's the opposite. It's just been odd. And I went in a little further, even 6+ point favorites. So that's almost a full touchdown. 6+ point favorites have covered 54% of their games this season. 5 years before it, only 48% covered. Like, that's a big difference in numbers. That's a big difference in betting strategy. So I felt the impact too. I'm up 1.4 units after like the last 3 weeks of finally getting back. I was beaten down too all year until recently.
I think the issue is that we don't have like a middle tier of teams this year. We have good teams, we have bad teams, and I don't feel like there's a whole lot of in between in there.
Yeah, there's really not. And I mean, even the good teams, it's like, I don't know, man. It's been like they just can't stand up to the really good teams, like the Super Bowl contenders. Like there's this massive gap. And I guess the Super Bowl contenders are who you're saying good teams are in that scenario. But just a weird season. Models down a half unit on the year, but we're getting back. We've been up and up and up each of the last few weeks, getting our legs back, getting back to that break-even point. And pretty soon here, we should be green across the board. But what do you think we just jump into the slate here, Jay?
We can do that. First game I have, Thursday night game, Cowboys versus Seattle. Cowboys at home this year have been the best team in football, in my opinion. I look for Jerome landing another pick six and just keep raising that record. I got Cowboys -9 with the MVP, Dak Prescott at the helm, slinging that rock for them. They've been pretty, like, historically, Cowboys aren't great at home. They have usually just as good on the road as they are at home. This year is different. They play so well at home, and it's not really, or it's a true Thursday game, but played in last Thursday, so it's not like they're on a short week or anything. So yeah, I love Cowboys -9 here.
Yeah, I thought about taking that. I mean, as I was looking at who Dallas has beaten at home, I kind of started to hesitate more because it was, the Jets. Okay, I'll give you the Jets because like the Jets defense alone they're a tough team. But then you have New England, you got the Rams, you got the Giants, you got Washington. Like, so I'm seeing
The
that
Packers.
They beat the Packers at home. They played the Packers this year?
Maybe not. Maybe I'm tripping.
I didn't think that. I didn't have it written down in my notes here, but maybe I just missed it. Either way, I ended up staying away from this just because Dallas is coming off 3 just like blowout wins, and Seattle coming off a blow-off loss. I feel like there's some potential for it to be closer than what the spread is because what spread is 9. But I'm not taking Seattle either. And if I was taking anything, I'd be taking Dallas.
I don't know where I got in my head that we played the Packers. For some reason, I was thinking Jordan left through like 5 interceptions against us.
Well, I can see it. I could believe it. It's believable. But
yeah, I could have swore that happened.
Anyways, moving on to the Broncos at the Texans. And in this game, I've got the under 46.5. So basically, my logic on this, Houston has only, like in Houston games, they've only covered 46.5 twice. They've only hit that over twice out of 6 times. So out of Denver, they're averaging 21 points per game over their last 7 games since they kind of started to figure stuff out. And they're allowing only 19 points per game. So this is a defense who's really kind of found its stride here. But going up against CJ Stroud's tough. But ultimately, I have 2 teams here. One, the defense getting right. The other, they haven't been putting up big scores at home. So I'm taking the under.
Yeah, and I think Derek Burnett just got signed to the Texans too. I think that can give him some juice on the defensive line for him. Yeah, I like that underplay a lot. I looked at Texans minus 3.5. Felt like that's a little bit too much juice for how well the Broncos are playing right now. So stayed away from it.
Broncos are back. The Denver Broncos are back. Russ might only be averaging 5 yards per attempt, but it don't matter. The Broncos are back. You heard it here first. Next up here, we got the Saints marching in to Detroit. Bounties and kneecaps. What do you got here, Jay?
Yeah, Saints defense has been playing really good. Saints offense is up in the air. What's going to happen there? But Lions haven't looked great here these past couple of weeks. I like Saints to keep this close. Give me Saints +4 in this game.
Ooh, sleeping on the Lions. I see it. I don't mind it either. I mean, so when I was looking at this game, what I wrote down, Detroit has been punched in the mouth the last 2 weeks. They won one of them, but like they have looked human. You know, they've looked beatable. I think they might answer, but it's on the road in New Orleans, where New Orleans has gotten a lot of unders over the last year and a half at home. So you'd expect a close game. 4.5 is a fairly big number. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable taking the Lions there, even though they're coming off, you know, they're in kind of a prove it mode, but the Saints are still fighting for the playoffs, and I ended up staying away. But I do like I think that 4.5 number, it just feels big. Like if you're saying the line should be a 7.5 point favorite at home, like that's huge. That just doesn't feel right for the way the Saints have played.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so next up here, got the Miami Dolphins going to Maryland to play the Washington Football Commanderskins. I think I got that right.
Absolutely. So I look at this game, I just see weapons all over the field. When Sam Howell plays well, he can put up big numbers. I think the Washington can score some points in this game, and you know Miami's going to get there. So I got over 49.5 here.
I think the over can hit. I disagree a bit. I mean, Howell's probably going to put up enough points to get that over, but like this Miami defense has been heating up. The last 6 weeks, they are one of the best defenses in the NFL. Vic Fangio is doing his thing. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey back. Having Jalen Ramsey and Javon Holland in the secondary at the same time is almost a cheat code. So I'm taking the Dolphins -9.5 here. I think the Dolphins are going to have no problem putting up. No one's had a problem putting up points on Washington this year. And they trade away their 2 best defensive or edge defenders because Jonathan Allen is probably better than either of the guys they traded. But trade away 2 of their better defensive players, and the defense, lo and behold, hasn't gotten better for it. They were not good to begin with. I think this offense is going to have a nice day against them. I think this defense is going to show what they've been showing the last 5-6 weeks. I just think Miami's going to walk all over them, basically. Moving on here, we have the Arizona Cardinals going into the Steel City, Pittsburgh, to take on the Steelers. And some say that winning is Kyler's Call of Duty. What do you say?
Yeah, so I think Kyler's played pretty well since coming back. I mean, missing all that time, it's kind of shaking the rust off a little bit. I like Cardinals to keep it close here. Pittsburgh's offense looked better after firing Matt Canada, but 5.5 is a big number, and I think Cardinals' offense can keep it close, and their defense is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So, yeah, give me Cardinals +5.5 here.
So, I looked at this game, and on the Kyler note, like I saw some stats today or yesterday that were kind of interesting. Like a lot of his fantasy numbers have been pretty solid because it's been more running, but his actual passing numbers have been like not quite up to par. I do think he's going to shake it off, going to get back to what he was like pretty quickly here, because I do think that he became a meme there at some point. It's like Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. He's going to be fine. But I looked at this game. Arizona's defense is just they don't have the horses. They're just not good. Like they do everything they can to scheme it up and make it difficult, but ultimately this defense is just missing talent. And the Steelers offense, like, I mean, maybe they got better. Kenny Pickett threw for a lot of yards last week, but they only scored 16 points. I still don't know what to make of that. Like that they should be better than that, but I mean, I don't know. So I decided to stay away. You're right. 5.5 is a lot of points. I could see Kyler covering that, but like, there's just a lot of uncertainty around this game for me. So I decided to forego it. Looking here at
as a Bears fan, you need the Cardinals win there.
Oh yeah, I'd love it. I'd be all for it.
Stretch that distance between them and Carolina.
Yeah, make Christmas Eve not matter as much when the Bears and Cardinals face off. That would be great. Next up here, we have the coachless Carolina Panthers going up against a Baker scorned, as we've talked about many times before, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you got this one, Jay? Or is this all me?
No, but is there a coach in America that wants to take that Panthers job?
No, Tepper's is going to have to pay someone a giant bag of money to take that job. Like he has done about everything wrong that you possibly could.
You think they go out and get Jimbo Fisher?
I mean, Jimbo's got to be running out of luck at some point here.
He go out and sign Jimbo Fisher, fire him after 8 games. Jimbo Fisher gets another buyout. I mean, just living large.
I mean, hey, if it fits the trend, I mean, don't bet against it. Looking at this game, though, when I first looked at this game, I was like, gross. Ew. Like, this is not a game that I want to bet. And as I'm sitting here, like, looking at the slate, thinking it over, I'm going like, man, Tampa's D-line is still pretty good. And this Carolina O-line has been one of the worst in the NFL this year. And the Bucs are just probably they are the far more talented team. And they're coming off a really embarrassing loss. I think the Bucs are going to come out and just like show off against a bad team. They're not taking the week off. They're not like taking last week's game plan and putting it in this week because they have a nobody team coming up and they can afford to kind of go easy. They're in a division battle, in division game, while they're fighting for a playoff spot and coming off an embarrassing loss. I think Tampa's pedal to the metal here. Give me Tampa minus 5.5.
Mike Evans anytime touchdown.
Always a great bet. I've said on the podcast a few times before that I don't like doing anytime touchdowns in my same game parlays, and I'm changing my stance on that because I started to last week after someone I know I was talking to at Thanksgiving, and they were talking about the anytime touchdown parlays that they've hit, and like I was like, maybe I gotta change my tune on that, and I came like one piece within hitting like 2 different parlays this past week, and none of the pieces that hit were anytime touchdowns. It's like you can, if you're going to sit there and like nerd out over it, you can really do well at it. So I'm changing my stance a little there. But next up here on the slate, we have the Cleveland Browns going to Los Angeles, and I just think this one's gross. So this is all you.
Yeah, Dorian Thompson-Robinson hasn't been good. Browns defense is really freaking good. I mean, even with Matt Stafford back, I don't see the Rams scored many points here. I got under 40.
Myles Garrett might have had his arm amputated.
Yeah.
So he's
is he
only
playing
playing
this
one
week?
armed. He's playing, but I mean, he's missing his left arm, I think it is, basically.
He only needs one.
I mean, against that Rams line, you might be right.
I'll still get triple teamed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people sleeping on the Browns right now. Like a lot of people just kind of throwing them aside and saying like DTR is their quarterback and not thinking about how dangerous this defense is and saying like you should beat the Browns. I'm not sure it's that simple even with Myles Garrett hurt. I still think this defense is an absolute juggernaut, and their O-line is really banged up too. Like they're missing both their tackles now. But hey, until we see Kevin Stefanski not be able to run the football, I'm going to believe that Kevin Stefanski is going to be able to run the football. Like I have no reason to believe it won't work.
Absolutely.
Next up here, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, the world champs, going to Titletown, to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. We have Patrick Mahomes against Jordan Love, the game of the century, the matchup we've all been dying to see. These two face off. And I think this one's just me, right? Yeah, okay. So I'm taking KC minus 6.5. They don't have a single person on that roster who can catch football besides Travis Kelce.
Nobody.
I don't really care. I mean, I look at this. I see Steve Spagnuolo. I think he's going to make life hell on Jordan Love this week. I think he's going to have him just in the Thunderdome, like trying to figure out left from right because there's so many bodies flying around. So it's just a battlefield out there. All the red just coming straight at Jordan Love, trying to rip his head off. I think Kansas City's defense, the way that they play, is Jordan Love's nightmare. I really do. You go back and you look at Jordan Love's first start, his first career NFL start was in Kansas City, and he just looked awful. Steve Spagnuolo had his number, knew how to get to him. I think that stuff matters. I think that Jordan Love remembers that. He's going to be in his head a little bit for this. I think Matt LaFleur is going to pull out all the stops for him like he has all year, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. I think 6.5. I mean, maybe it's a rat line. It's begging me to take Kansas City here, and I'm taking it, but I'm still taking it. And I know it's at Lambeau Field. I know that the Packers are just dirty cheaters. The refs will be on their side, but I just think Spagnuolo is going to have him tied up in knots.
Yeah. No, I don't hate that at all.
All right, last one here. And Jay, they can't keep getting away with it.
No, they can't. Yeah, I like this bet too. I forgot to write it down.
49ers coming to Philly, like 1 mile away from where I'm sitting right now to the link, like 1 mile south. That's where I live. 49ers are coming to Philly. And you know what? I don't even dislike the Eagles. Like I am cool with the Eagles like doing well because I live here and I want to see the fun of it, but they can't keep getting away with it, man. They had no business winning that game or the previous game.
Yeah, they've about 5 times this year they've gotten away with shit that they haven't. Like, luckiest team in football by far. I mean, they're good, but they're not a one-loss team good. So, yeah. I mean, eventually it's got to come back to them.
So, give me San Fran minus 2.5. I put 2 units on this. I mean, it's going to catch up to them at some point here. And you don't, like, honestly, if you're an Eagles fan, and you don't want it to catch up to them in the playoffs. You know, you want to catch up to them now because this isn't a 16-1 team. You know, like they're not going to do that. They're good. They're really good. They're one of 3 teams I think has a shot at winning the NFC. Did I go out?
I don't know what happened.
That was bizarre.
One of 3 teams that can win the Super Bowl.
Or the NFC.
NFC.
One of 3 teams that can win the NFC. Because there's more than 3 that can win the Super Bowl, I think. But anyways.
4.
Yeah. At least 4. Eagles can't keep getting away with it. it's got to catch up to them sooner or later. And if this one doesn't hit, I'm putting 4 units against them next week. That's
Double
where we're
down.
at. It just because
It's
who they
gotta
got
hit.
next week? No, next week they got
Dallas.
Dallas in Dallas. Yeah, if they win this game again, like watch, they're gonna lose this game by 2, and I'll lose my bet, and it'll just be like, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah. No, it's crazy though how we talked all season about how strong the AFC is and everything. And now you're looking at it and like the AFC might have more teams that are good, but I mean you have the Ravens and the Chiefs, but I mean I would say Kansas City, Dallas, and San Fran are playing better ball than both those teams.
yeah, I think so. I mean, the AFC's gotten weird. It really has because, like, no
I mean
Burrow.
Bills
The Bills are falling apart.
Bills might miss the playoffs. Chargers are gonna miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
Broncos are one of the scariest teams in the AFC right
they're
now.
back.
Yeah. I mean, Houston, they should have won last week. But I mean, they're on the verge of winning the division, at least making the playoffs. And then nobody on the Chiefs can catch. And I mean, until Lamar proves it, can he get it done?
That's the question, man. That's the question. So yeah, you're right. The AFC has gotten really kind of muddy, and the NFC has started to look like better than I think some of us thought it would.
Yeah. I mean, outside of those 3 teams, I don't think if somebody other than those 3 teams gets out of the NFC, I think it's the AFC's to win, no doubt. But I mean, if it's I think any of those 3 teams will be favored in the Super Bowl if they make it.
Yeah, I could see it. All right, you want to talk a little college football before we finish off the abbreviated episode?
Absolutely. First up, I have a money line parlay. It's Oregon, Texas, Georgia, Louisville. Plays plus 355, putting a unit on that. All right. And then I have Liberty, New Mexico State over 56.5. I think both these teams can score. It's conference championship. They're going to pull all the tricks out of the bag. Similar theory here. Oregon, Washington over 65.5. You have 2 quarterbacks that are trying to win the Heisman. You have the college football playoff on the line. I think if we see a big performance out of Michael Penix or Bo Nix, they could steal the Heisman from Jalen Daniels, even though I think Jalen Daniels should be the Heisman winner no matter what. But big time performance here could steal it for one of those guys. So I expect a lot of points in this rematch. Like I said, college football playoff on the line. Give me over 65.5 in that game. Then I have Texas minus 15.5 versus Oklahoma State. Texas is in the worst position out of every team playing this weekend, trying to they're one of the only teams that doesn't control their own destiny. I think if Alabama wins, they're in. I think if Florida State wins, they're in. I think the winner of Oregon, Washington is in. And then obviously Michigan controls their own destiny as well. So they're the only team that doesn't control their own destiny. I expect them to put on an absolutely ass whooping against Oklahoma State. I might take an alternate over of minus 30 if I can find it. I think they just destroy them. I think Sark knows that they have to destroy them. It's their last chance. And then last but not least, this is basically a hedge against my parlay. I feel good about the other 3 legs. So I'm taking Bama plus 5.5. I think Georgia wins the game, but 5.5 points for Nick Saban's a lot of points. Give me 5.5 to Bama there.
And full reference, Jay is a red hot plus 9.4 units on college football so far this season. I was right there with him all year until 4 weeks ago. Last 4 weeks, I'm down 4 units. So on the season, I am still up 4.5 units. But I feel like every year, this time of year, like week 10 through the championship week, is where my college bets just fall off a cliff. Like it's it's the math really seems to work for the first like 2/3 of the season, but that final third, teams just start doing things that they hadn't done all year. Like that, just a little more comes out. They get a little more toothpaste out of that bottle, like, and it just, especially rivalry week. I feel like I'm over the last 3 years down at least 10 units on rivalry week. It's just I don't read it well. But that being said, here are my picks for this week, which you probably don't want to follow. First up here, SMU against Tulane. I am going with SMU plus 5.5. On the season, SMU has covered almost 60% of their games. And Tulane has failed to cover almost 60% of their games. Next up here, I have Toledo against Miami of Ohio. Another game of the century here. I'm going Miami, Ohio plus 7.5. This one, Toledo has failed to cover half their games this year. Miami, Ohio has covered a whopping 75% of their games. They've been feisty all year. Next up, New Mexico State. The pride and joy, Brian Urlacher. The Lobos.
Should have been a
Texas. Or is that UNM? Wait, is that UNM or is that
University of New Mexico? I believe.
Okay, so excuse me. Nothing to do with Brian Urlacher. New Mexico State against Liberty. I'm going New Mexico State plus 10.5. That's just a big number for a championship game. New Mexico State has covered 83% of their games this year. And Liberty has failed to cover only 33% of the time. So they have covered 67%. This isn't my best bet, but you give me a team that's covered 83% of their games at 10.5 point dog. I'm just going to take it. Last one, Georgia against Alabama. I got Alabama plus 6. You want the numbers on this? Georgia has failed to cover 64% of the time this year. Alabama has covered 67% of the time. I think Saban's got – I went on record early this season saying that Nick Saban's lost his fastball. I think it might be back. I think he might have found it.
I mean, they should have lost to Auburn, and Auburn lost to New Mexico State.
That's true. So New Mexico State is almost SEC champs then. Because give me Alabama plus 6. I'm probably even going to sprinkle the money line on this. I don't think this Georgia team is what they've been. And
I don't think Georgia loses that game, but –
I'm not.
I don't hate it.
I'm sprinkling. That's why I'm sprinkling. It's not a pick.
No, yeah,
I'm just gonna sprinkle.
I don't hate it. I mean, it'll be absolute chaos if Oregon wins, Bama wins, Florida State wins, Michigan wins, Texas wins. It's gonna be absolute chaos on Selection Sunday.
We're here for the chaos. That's what we're all about on this show.
Yeah. So I kind of want chaos, but I think it would be hilarious to see Texas get left out and see all the tears. But I think Florida State's going to be the team that gets fucked, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, they're the team that I feel like is the easiest to just toss to the side when their quarterback has a broken leg,
Yeah, but, I mean, I got Louisville in that game, so I think it'll work itself out.
I almost took Louisville. I looked at every game, and pretty much everything that you said is where I was leaning on the other games, but like the numbers weren't lining up. All the teams were good on covers on this season. It was like, well, if both of them are good at covering, what do I bet?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm excited. It's one of the best conference championship weekends in a long time, I feel like.
Yeah, there's some really good matchups. It's going to be an exciting Saturday.
Yeah, and then next year we get the 12-team playoff, and I'm so fucking excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Confession time, I didn't know if that was this year or next year for like half the season. And I was just like going along with whatever people said, like, I kept forgetting to Google it. Like
the bracket for this year would have been incredible.
For it. Yeah, it would have been. All right, well, I think that wraps us up. And remember, folks, don't sleep on the Texans.
Yes, sir. Adios.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.